for the Wednesday, February 18th Planning Commission for the Village of Franklin. Could I do a roll call starting from the right? Let's see.
Sarah Gressick, present.
Linda Novak, present.
Stuart Wooters, present.
Paul Brakeman, present.
Quincy Harrison, present.
All right, great. So do we have an adoption for the agenda?
I was looking at, it says items 6, 7, and 8. That seems to be not what we discussed last time. It was like 1, 2, and 3, and then 15.
Right.
So I didn't know if there was some change for 6, 7, and 8, or
Yeah, so in
feedback from council.
yes, feedback from council. And trustees, Sally, who's here, will also take a minute and kind of catch us up during his council liaison opportunity. Any other questions about the agenda?
The only thing is then that's really not old business, because it's not what we discussed last time. Wouldn't that be new business? But either way.
It's overall it's a general topic, but yeah. We will need to break them down into individual topics and talk about them independently anyway. So even though it's technically in one grouping, this is going to discuss the feedback from council and where we want to start, how we break down each of the different items. So
Yeah, we're gonna do a few at a time just to not overwhelm ourselves, correct, Liv?
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And Pete,
But I will make a motion to adopt the agenda.
I will second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. So, how about adoption of the minutes from last meeting? Were there any changes or modifications that anyone felt were necessary? Said no?
I did not. No.
Okay. All right, then could I have a motion to adopt the minutes from the January Planning Commission meeting?
Motion to adopt the minutes from January's planning commission meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Do I have to abstain? Because
You
I
do have to
wasn't at the
abstain,
last
yes. And we'll just make sure in the minutes that
meeting. I was watching.
Linda is abstained. Okay, cool. All right, now we can go into our, we don't have a really, yeah, we can go into, so, I didn't remember seeing the budget.
It was just on a piece of paper here when we got here.
Is it, oh, yeah, okay. So I'm gonna, I was actually gonna request that, the office just give us quarterly updates on our budget. Right now, we don't, while we're working through with our treasurer, less burden on them to, do it quarterly, so, any objections to doing that, doing the budget, our budget? We have very few line items anyway from month to month.
The only thing was that I know, and Evan's not here, I don't know if they ever, because it was in our minutes that we did talk about it, if we figured out if we were the public hearing comment, the public hearing notice, if we ever figured that out. That was the only thing I,
Oh. Yeah. I've not heard back from him. We've not finalized that. I did make the request. Did Bill, have you heard anything on that? No. Okay. Yeah, cause I noticed, in the Birmingham Eagle that, Beverly, they announced their public hearings in the Eagle. It's like one of the last pages. It's under community communication, and their public hearings are there. So that's why I'm curious why they can get away with it. But
Well, maybe we can. We just don't know.
yeah,
It might be completely fine.
We typically done it through the Oakland Press site because they have been technically easier to work with, and their publications come out more often, which gives us a little more flexibility of when we get the notices to them, so that they can get posted.
Hmm. It sounds like we could do a tiered system then, but I would rather, like, it seems like, I don't know. Well, we'll talk to council, I'm not council, we'll talk to, clerks more.
Curious to see the price difference. I think Eagle's monthly, isn't it?
Yeah,
And I'm sure Open Press is more often.
yeah, they actually have it daily, but they typically run their public notices on a certain day, and they
Right.
have to have it to them by a Thursday.
But-
they hit the weekend.
But Open Press is online entirely,
Yeah.
right? Right.
Yeah. They still print a minimal document, but most of their services are online.
But it could just hold
Yeah,
up our
it
whole
worked.
process a lot.
It did work out better, not just for planning, but for, we have zoning board of appeals meetings, we have other public hearings that, we have timing issues with too.
Yeah, that's a good point. No one, that was not raised previously when we discussed a
Yeah.
cheaper option,
Yeah.
that it may not.
Right, so, I mean, in recent history, we've had that situation where we did a site plan approval, and we did not an emergency meeting, but a non-normal scheduled meeting to be able to do the site plan review within a week or so of planning's meeting, so,
Right.
yeah, I can see the advantage of that.
On a monthly notification, especially when we're dealing with the zoning board, they only meet once a month, and those have deadlines
For submission.
that are much tighter for people to supply information and get certain things, and still allow us time to produce the document that gets published. And once a month, just didn't really fit into the meeting schedule and stuff like that.
Well, and anyway, I know that this is off, we've now extended the topic a little bit more on this from just budget, but, just the history of planning commission public notices, we typically, if it's an ordinance that we have a public hearing for, it lasts, we've been talking about it for months prior to the public hearing, if not for a full year prior to the public hearing. The only ones that, would be a problem for, would be site us of getting to a site plan late, for whatever reason. So I don't know if it's, anyway, I'll continue to work with the clerks, village office about that.
I made a note on my comments to Evan.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So move to the official reports, since we have, trustee Sala here, thank you for being here. Would you mind, as council liaison, providing us, your input from council?
Yeah, thank you. Last council meeting, we went through and looked at the recommendation related to the nuisance ordinance, and notably, one of the things that we did change from a policy perspective was the prioritization. So we kept the inoperable vehicles and kind of that grouping. And then the other one that we kept along with that, or not kept, we added in, was the litter and then the rubbish kind of grouped together as well. And then deprioritize, because we were trying to do groupings. If your preference is 3, we can always go back and add an additional one, but we wanted to kind of take it in phases. And the reason that we thought that we wanted to insert litter and rubbish is that was one of the things that initially brought this forward, to get the issue forward to begin with. But I did talk with Stuart to acknowledge the fact that I think it can be difficult to identify what constitutes rubbish, what is a child leaving their bike in the driveway compared to a rusty bike that's been sitting in somebody's yard for 15 years. How do you create an ordinance around that? And so as you go through the process, I'll stay engaged to make sure that if we run into those type of struggles, that I'm communicating that back to the council accordingly to make sure that we're not wasting your time.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yep.
The one thing that came out of the council meeting for me that I thought, from when I was there, that made sense, to add to our discussion here is, the importance of staying involved in the various organizations within the village, whether it is Main Street, or whether it is the Historical District Commission, or any of the different organizations within the village.
FCA,
FCA,
Historic Society.
Yes, thank you.
There may be others. yeah.
And I know that-
Garden Club is always a good one.
There's a lot of overlap also of individuals in those different organizations. You'll see many familiar faces, but I just wanted to remind planning that one of the things I think that we've done well in the past, recent past, is trying to stay engaged with those other organizations and being part of those discussions. Zoning, obviously, we have someone on zoning, which makes it easier. It's an easy win, but just, let's not lose sight of that achievement of trying to reach out and be more engaged. I mean, planning is one of those positions within within a village charter that is essential to our ordinance process, as well as site plan reviews. But that means that it's also on us to make sure that we're communicating well with those other organizations that can be impacted by the things that we do, and being relevant. And having Mr. Dinnan here, who works also closely with the code enforcement, but also brings site plans to us, has been helpful, will be helpful as well going forward as we are also drafting ordinances. So, and he has his ear on other, with other organizations as well. So just as things come up, please continue communicating and working with those other groups. So that's all I wanted to say for my councilperson report. Anything from the commissioners that you'd like to bring up? Okay. Zone liaison?
Yeah, we did have a meeting last month, and it was actually a sign board of appeals meeting rather than zoning,
Okay.
for the new Sens Center going in, and we approved a ground sign because there are two little fences there, and so it was within 5 feet of the boundary, but it.
What was it for? Who's building?
Well, it's Lisa McDonald's
Okay.
place and the new place, and it's going to be branded as the Sens Center.
Comments?
That's right, Sens Commons, I'm sorry.
SENS?
SENS,
Nice.
yeah.
Cool.
Well, thank you.
So it's a cool project, and we can have a picture of
So
the sign.
anything more about, I'm a little off topic, but so what will the Sun Center do?
Well,
Or the Sun's Commons?
it's,
It'll be the two buildings.
it'll be the two buildings, so
Right.
it'll continue to be, what it is
Fitness,
and the
yep.
main thing, and the other one, it's gonna, I think it's kind of conceptual still at this point. But I think it's gonna be kind of a gathering place and, coffee and
This is where the old farmhouse was?
events. Yes.
Okay.
So,
Drinks presumably?
drinks, yeah. So it's a very interesting concept, and it looks very exciting, and it's gonna be great.
Good. Good. All right, then let's move on to public comments. We do not see much from the public here today.
How about the distinguished gentleman in the back? He might have something.
They're too busy. He's too busy. Yeah.
Conference call.
Yeah, on a conference call. That's right. I remember when my son was in the same seat here, so I totally get it. So I mean, I do plug us every council meeting to for the public to come and share. Hopefully at some point they'll want to engage, and hopefully not for something controversial that we might have said or they had been led to believe, but rather be part of the process that we're going through. And I think that the next two ordinances we're working on will hopefully bring in our public to help us actually shape and tackle these ordinances. So here's hoping for public comments next month. Moving on, so yes, this is old business, but, we'll move them to new business as we, define them. But the revisions of the village code, as requested by council, so they did take our input, and I just, we wanna stay true to their goals and their priorities. And I appreciate the effort we put in last week, and I think it helped in that discussion. The old business, so for today, Chris, you've created a memo for us, and those of you that had a chance to read through the memo, it is, it not only includes the memo, but also line item callouts for, with questions with regards to these ordinances. Chris, would you mind just going through and helping us summarize and go over what you
Sure.
presented to us?
So we're only gonna start with grouping one, we're not touching grouping two yet? Is that really,
No,
is that a priority, or we're doing, because I saw you had both. I thought
Both.
we were just doing one set at a
we're
time,
two
so I
different
wasn't sure what the,
Well, I've
Process was.
focused on both of them.
okay.
I wanted to point out, of course, that Sarah's done some
Thank you. I'm just stealing a pen. I will be right back.
great work also on this, but I focused on both Group 1 and Group 2, and there's two sections of the ordinance, Chapter 648 and Section 1268.14, that would be affected most by amendments that would relate to Group 1 and Group 2. And so what I've done is I've made copies of those two, and it would be presumptuous of me to go ahead and make revisions without getting input. So what I've done is I've gone through here and I've redlined comments and questions. And what I'd like to do is generate some discussion tonight so that I can get some input. And also show you where some areas where these two sections need some attention. And then the second part of my work is a set of definitions that I've put together. And then the third thing I wanted to talk about was municipal civil infractions, which Sarah touched on in her memo as well. So if you want to turn to my memo on Chapter 648, littering, because the littering section not only deals with littering, but it also deals with accumulation of rubbish or garbage, which is addressed in 648.06. So it addresses two of the items that we talked about in our list. But the first thing I wanted to point out was when we talk about garbage and refuge and waste, and and litter. It's sort of confusing, those terms, but refuge is an all-inclusive category of waste, and it includes both decaying waste, which is garbage. So garbage is decaying waste. And it also includes solid waste, which is rubbish. So refuse is a all-inclusive category. Now, litter is also an all-inclusive category of waste, but the distinction is that litter has the distinction of being scattered about. So that's the distinction between refuge and litter. Litter is, the distinction is it's being scattered about. So that's the distinction that you have to keep in mind. So anyway, when you look at the definitions under 648, some of the things I pointed out is, first of all, in garbage, they use the word petruciable. And I propose to eliminate that word because nobody knows what it means.
Word of the day, yeah.
And, which means basically that it's subject to decay. So, that's why I put those words in parentheses there. So, you find that in a lot of nuisance ordinances, and everybody asks, well, what does that word mean? And it just means it rots. Then, my next comment, and interrupt anywhere you want to.
So real quick, I think to answer Commissioner Harrison's question, and maybe I'm just stepping back for a second. My understanding was we would work on 2 ordinances at a time, so group 1 and group 2 would be the 2 that we would work on
Oh,
simultaneously.
okay. I view that as 6 ordinances, but if you're viewing it as 2.
Well, yes,
It becomes 2 when we can bring them down.
right. And
It's 3 and 3.
Sure.
that's kind of the way I was interpreting these, is bundling them into a single ordinance for each group.
Oh, so you want to combine all of those 3 into one ordinance and not have separate ordinances for each of those?
Yes.
And not just address them?
Just-
I guess,
I mean, and this is where we have to, as we're going through this, if we feel like there's if it's better to demarcate them into individual ordinances, then yeah, let's do that. But as far as the initial scoping of these groups, I think right now it makes sense to treat them as ordinance 1, ordinance 2, until we dig into it and say, no, you know what, this really needs to stand alone.
Sure.
Is that fair? Okay, all right, go ahead.
well,
yeah,
I
Pete.
guess just so there were the other issues that we had talked about. Will we just treat those further on down the
Yes,
road?
yes.
Okay,
This is just the beginning of a list.
right.
Okay, and then private premises, when we get to the definitions that I put together, I've proposed a different definition, which is a lot simpler than this one. This one is too long-winded and is very confusing. There's too many words, and there's no need for it to be this confusing, so.
And it should not include the word appurtenant, in my opinion. Appurtenant. It's like protrusible. It's like, what in the world does that mean?
It's a real estate,
Yeah, I don't use
Is
it.
pertinent too, yeah.
Got it.
Which actually, some of it, like even the mailbox, because our mailboxes are across the street. So
Right,
it does sort of have to be spelled out.
Well, Chris, you had proposed an alternate?
yeah, we'll get to that later.
Okay.
Let me just ask this question though, if the definition is too long, are there other places within our body of ordinances that define private premises? Because I feel like public place, private premises are going to be already defined in other ordinances as well, and why would we have a different wording in one ordinance versus another?
I can check that out.
Because if this is, obviously if it's too long or we're working on it, like, let's not have definitions flying all over the place.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
That might contradict, because we've run into that before, especially with vehicles, commercial versus, commercially owned versus a commercial vehicle, like, so private owned, commercially used, or a commercial vehicle by a commercial company. You come home from work in your car and it's a commercial vehicle, but it is your car you use every day.
Okay. Under refuse, I just wanted to point out that abandoned automobiles is defined under state law. And so there is a definition for that. that we should include in the ordinance.
Good.
Then, on the next page, we talk about village dumps, the official village dump. To my knowledge, the village doesn't have a official village dump.
Unofficial.
Unless they've been keeping it secret.
Yeah, the unofficial one's the ledge off of 14 Mile into the ravine.
Right.
And then, under 648.03, I think that should be reworded. It's very awkward. Needs to be reworded better. But one thing that you should be aware of, which is common in most litter ordinances, is that last sentence: persons owning or occupying property shall keep the sidewalk, gutter, and ditch in front of their premises free of litter. And actually, most nuisance ordinances say that they have to keep their own property free of litter. And a lot of people are shocked when they see that in an ordinance. So I just wanted you to be aware of that.
Question for you, where does dog poop fall into all of this? Because walking through my neighborhood, no one seems to pick it up. Is that
That-
litter? Is
That
that-
would be garbage,
But it's scattered about.
but it's subject to decay.
Well, it's not, I guess if it's not in the gutter, sidewalk, ditch, or, front of the premises.
See, yeah, litter's the broader term.
Yeah, it
The
doesn't
exact term is
result
garbage.
from the handling, preparation, cooking,
I-
or consumption of food.
I would
guess
real-
it does.
I would really appreciate, I don't have a dog, I would really appreciate not having to pick up someone else's bag on my property, especially in the winter, in the spring cleanup.
At least if they bagged it, it's more just that poop everywhere.
The Easter egg hunt. Spring.
I'll make a note of that. That needs to be covered.
I guess what made me think about that is that I think private garbage receptacles could be nice in some neighborhoods that encourage people to throw their poop bags out, but that was what triggered that thought to me.
I just don't know what an authorized
Yeah.
private receptacle is.
It's a weird thing, but that's just what made me think of dog poop.
The only thing I could think of being an authorized private receptacle is everybody's trash cans on garbage day just being at the curb.
What is the stuff at FCA? Is that
I mean, we do have them,
FCA's owned?
yeah.
Does that meet the requirement, definition of private?
It's private property.
So
Well,
is
it's,
that a
it's
private-
and actually it's, FCA is now quasi-public, right?
Yeah, that would,
Organization.
But the property itself is designated as public, quasi-public, institutional, right?
right.
But would all the garbage cans over there
Yeah.
meet that authorized private receptacle?
Probably. Only because it's on
Figure
a,
on it.
only because it's public property, yeah.
I don't know, we might have found one, so there we go. Okay,
So do we know what a authorized private receptacle is?
I don't know.
So we should delete that, or?
well, does it include all the garbage cans over by the baseball diamonds?
Well, okay, so, I think the only thing, the definition that applies to the authorized private receptacle for collection are things that our waste management company would be willing to use for disposal of waste,
Right.
right? Because they're the ones that accept or reject containers for waste. For recycling, they define what, they ask you to put stickers on to define recycling. For yard and landscaping waste, they also ask you to define what is that. And then also for garbage receptacles. And, there's only a certain, I believe they have set stipulations on the village of, and for homeowners on what is considered a receptacle.
Yep. I mean, I don't know if you can get a little pickup type container closer to your house, but that would be an authorized private receptacle.
Yeah, but also like, I mean, we encourage our villagers to not make your receptacles convenient for dog walkers. and for dogs, because, you know, then that means that they're at everyone's curb all week long, right?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Would that also consider like Franklin, like the restaurants, like dumpster? Like, would that,
See.
would that be an authorized private receptacle?
This is a garbage can in front of a store door. Is that a private
Yeah,
receptacle?
like-
That's
I-
private.
So I guess, I don't know.
Well, and they're not depositing in the streets or the sidewalks, they're,
But they are next to the sidewalks. Some, I don't know.
Okay, we'll have to look that up.
Yeah, we'll have to think about that one. It's referred to, in the next section as well. We definitely need a definition of what an authorized private receptacle is, so,
I would prefer not to have one in my property.
we'll have to give that one some thought. Under 64806, it talks about the village marshal, which to my knowledge,
We don't have one anymore.
Who wants one?
who was there?
There was a marshal, but there is no longer.
Doesn't it fall back to the village administrator? I think we did that once before when we had that term.
Most of the ordinances that refer to anybody that has authority is either the police, the village administrator, and or other authorized individuals such as the building official or the ordinance officer, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But there is no longer a marshal.
Right.
What's Don's position?
Ordinance officer.
Yes, but I think, I think we should double check, make sure, I think if anything, it should name the village administrator, and then they can, and to whoever they delegate the task. That way it'd be more generic in that regard, so. I mean, last time these ordinances were touched was 1962, so,
Yeah, they did away with marshals a long time ago in most communities.
Was that something in the charter that referred to a marshal?
I'm not sure, I'd have to look.
anyway, that's,
Now, down at the bottom of that paragraph, it talks about, the amount of time that somebody has to abate a nuisance, that being litter on their property, and it gives 2 days to 10 days. And, my question is this time frame okay with you?
10 days is too long.
That's what I thought.
2
It
days
seemed-
is not enough, so.
So I look at it like, you have at least a week till garbage, like garbage day, so it should at max be a week. But I think like that would really be my maximum of like, you have time to get rid of it before then, but if you
Yeah.
don't, then,
A week gives you at least one garbage pickup.
yeah.
and 10 days gives you guaranteed 2, though.
No, not.
Not necessarily, depending on what
Depending
day
on
of
when
the
it
week.
gets
Holidays,
notified.
Should there be some kind of a notice to cure in
No,
there?
you would always get two.
Like
That's-
if they
that's-
don't
Yeah,
do
there
it?
is.
Holiday
There is?
too.
That's what the village marshal, or whoever is gonna replace the village marshal is going to do.
What hours?
Well, but is there a cure as far as that if they don't get rid of it, that the, the village can pay to have it done and that they will be,
Well, there's 2 options. Well, there's multiple options, and most of this goes back to the part where Chris was mentioning the municipal civil infraction process. Almost each ordinance has somewhere in it, or in a group of ordinances, that has a penalty or a violation procedure attached,
okay,
which lists what the penalties
Okay.
could be, or is. If, as a violation, unless otherwise designated, anything doing with zoning or like ordinances are a municipal civil infraction. There are some ordinances, and especially in your police powers, that keep them as misdemeanors. And they take different processes through the system. Municipal civil infractions, there's a layout within the ordinance that says how that gets addressed and what you have to do and how that process takes place.
okay.
So,
I did actually, as the civil infraction, I noticed that was in most villages, when I was looking at them, what they did, and in my section 10, that is, standard practice was, on mine, section 10A, is, that describes what most, that I found did. So like 250 for the first offense, 500 for the second, 1,000 for any other ones. And that they gave between 5 and 10 days of, was the average of time that they gave people to be able to clean it up. Otherwise, it does consider to be a lien against the property.
It just, I think it depends on what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
It
if it's something that's an organic waste material, you know, keep in mind that it's already been sitting there for a while for somebody to complain about it or notice it and call somebody out there. And to give them another 10 days, you know, it's cold out right now. You're talking July, and if there's some kind of waste out there that could be attractive to rodents, that needs to be dealt with. Oh, here.
So-
we
so
have to
the way
dealt
I-
with quickly.
The way I look at this though is not less than, meaning that they can't set a time limit less than 2 days and not more than 10 days, meaning they can't set longer than 10 days. That's the bound which you have, that they can set, the code enforcement officer can set to take care of things. Because I would argue that some I would defy someone to remove some things within, the village be able to do it within 48 hours in some cases, depending on what they're trying to remove and abate, and making a stipulation that's harder for the village, just as hard for the village to get rid of for a homeowner, or a property owner in the village. I don't think it makes sense, but, some things take more time to remove, and you need to give allowance for that.
Right.
Bill, yeah.
As an enforcement end of this whole process, flexibility sometimes is the key to success.
Yeah.
Okay, Don's great at this. He has flexibility to weigh out that time frame and be able to work with the people, and our whole emphasis is compliance, not penalization. So we look at it from how do we get compliance? Well, different people do things in different ways, and they have different motives for doing it, and so on and so forth. Some people are hardliners, okay? I've had to take numerous people to court.
Right.
Through the municipal civil infraction, I've had to get injunctive orders out of judges to get certain things done. But the bigger problem is setting up an ordinance where it allows us to go on to the property. Now we've got issues that the ordinance may say so, but then you got some trespassing potential issues. And then if we do that, the village incurs a cost, and most ordinances where that is allowed to happen, there's a cost recovery set up in that ordinance, such as weeds. You know, we're gonna put notice out next week we have a weed ordinance, and that ordinance says we have to post it in the paper, and you have to keep your grass cut at 8 inches, and if you don't, you're gonna get violations, and the end result of that is, if you don't do it, we can come onto your property, cut it, and we're gonna send you the bill. The problem is, if they don't pay the bill, then you gotta go through the process of putting it on as a delinquent tax. I mean, this becomes a real administrative pain in the neck.
I will say
If you're
that
not set up for it, it gets worse.
for the weed one, I will say there are 2 posters in the village office that you should probably take down then. Because it talks about creating rain gardens and natural waterways for our village.
Well, and that's the other part of the weed ordinance is, you got rain gardens, but you also have a lot of properties within the village that are basically natural areas. Does that mean everybody's gotta cut every weed down on every piece of property it becomes a real nightmare.
Yep.
But just as a point, if you're going to go on somebody's property, that generally takes a court order to do so. And then in doing so, if the village is gonna do that, somebody's gotta pay the bill.
Right.
And typically, village councils don't necessarily want to spend tax dollars to clean up an individual's property, so Then you gotta set up a system where you bill it back to the owner, and then if the owner, like I said, if they don't pay, then it ends up a process where you have to put it on their tax bill. It gets really crazy. It can be done, but it is very definitely administratively labor intense.
So do we want to just focus on a fine-based system and not a village correction-based
Municipal-
system?
Yeah, municipal civil, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt,
No.
but municipal civil infractions are one of our best tools
Well,
to accomplish that.
since we segued into municipal civil infractions, let me, the ordinance currently addresses that in chapter 212. Now, I spoke to Evan earlier today, and he said that
I think we have it.
we're not implementing that in Franklin. Is that true?
Evan's not the enforcement officer. We don't like doing that. If we can get compliance without going through that process, we try to catch. I mean, we go to the end to make sure
But let
that
me
we don't.
just, there's,
But
let me ask a question. There, it calls for setting up a municipal civil infractions bureau, is that?
it's in our ordinance now,
Yeah, I know it. Is that set up?
yeah.
Who's the head of that?
Well, it's supposed to be the clerk.
No.
Except for we keep changing clerks. I'm not sure the current clerk knows exactly what all his responsibilities
No, he doesn't
are
know.
yet.
I can assure you he
That-
doesn't.
But that's for a municipal civil infraction where the person pleads responsible. We can accept payment here under the municipal civil infraction. We can accept payment if the person accepts responsibility.
Mhm.
If they want to give explanation, or if they want to deny responsibility, we have no choice in the matter, if you follow through the municipal and civil infraction law,
Right.
to issue them a municipal civil infraction citation, and they go to the court. Because the judge is the only one that can accept a
Right.
accepted, excuse, and/or try the fact whether the person is responsible or not.
Now,
They're
the,
denying guilt.
now, if they accept guilt, have the fines been established here by?
Yes. We have a fine
resolution?
schedule.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Evan didn't know that.
We haven't been down that road with Evan yet.
Yeah,
Yes, it is, it
All
is
right.
there.
okay.
It's under the fee schedule, which is adopted by resolution. It's part of that whole book that has fees attached.
Okay, so that, moving ahead, then on to the next page, on 648.99, where it says penalty and equitable remedies, that probably should refer to chapter 212, municipal civil infractions, instead of saying it automatically goes to a court of competent jurisdiction, right?
If in fact the actual particular ordinance that there is a violation for should state whether it is a civil infraction or if it is a misdemeanor. But almost all ordinances, with the exception of personal injury things and a lot of your police ordinances, they still remain misdemeanors.
Well,
But
these
pretty
are,
much anything that has to do with zoning or
Yeah.
keeping the village clean or anything like that should be a municipal civil infraction.
right. So,
So should that also connect to then the fee schedule as well as that?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah,
because I couldn't find that either when I looked. I didn't see that either.
It's under the master fee.
That's, yeah, I think that it was a separate thing that
So,
I just
I
didn't
did,
pull up.
I suggested that years ago because, well, two reasons. One is if you put a fee schedule in the ordinance, to change that schedule, you have to open up the whole
Right.
ordinance to adjust months. That's a poor way to do it because you end up discussing a lot of things in the ordinance that it has nothing to do with how much a fee or fine should be.
Yeah.
The second part of that is if you do it by resolution, which you're allowed to do,
mhm,
it's easy for us to amend certain parts of the fee schedule, bring it back to council as a resolution, you can get it approved.
Okay.
building fees, fines, all sorts of fees that are attached to things are in that schedule. And it was agreed years ago that we would create a master fee schedule which allowed an easier processing of that information.
So I guess my thought with allowing the flexibility for enforcement needs to be met with neighbors dealing with things that drag on for months and months and months. And I don't know how to necessarily balance those two. I think 2 to 10 days from, it would be nice if there was a time where they have to make a decision within the time of notice. They need to, issue a civil infraction, whatever, within 24 days of them being aware and confirming its presence. And that, but like, because I don't want it to drag out for 6 months, a year or more. So I guess I don't know how to balance that, flexibility that you like to have compliance, but then people living with garbage forever. So I don't know what your thoughts are, if you have any insight on how to address that.
Because I've done this for 40-some years in numerous municipalities. I think it's helpful to make your desires known as far as the time frame is concerned, but I really find it a bit limiting on your enforcement staff when you start putting exact dates on when certain things have to happen. I don't disagree that you shouldn't have to live next to a house that's got junk in his head for 50 years because you got a hoarder living there. I get that. But, and that's part of what I think brought this whole thing up for discussion. But at the same time, your ordinance has to be definable enough to make that violation make it through the system, courts or otherwise. Can't be that ambiguous, it's gotta be pretty nailed down. So, I'm not sure where the time frame says that something's gotta happen when this happens or that happens. What are you suggesting when the 10 days is gone? Where do you want it to go from there?
That's what I'm saying, like, I would like to, I think residents would like to know of a time frame where they could get like a final resolution, whether or not they're going to, people will be issued a ticket, or they're just gonna continue trying to work on compliance for a longer time. It would just be nice if there was, but like, you have a hoarder that's been there 50 years, they're not gonna clean it up in 10 days.
No.
But like, other things can be resolved quicker, but I don't know what the exact answer is, other than putting guidelines on there. If you have a notice, someone's in violation, you give them 30 days, it's not done, and the consequence is a civil infraction, then they get a civil infraction.
That's right.
And
That's been my philosophy over the years, but that isn't necessarily the philosophy that always transcends around town.
so,
That's why I'm saying, what is it you want to happen at a certain date? That can be defined, your ordinance can say that. But when you do that, you take away some of the flexibility from the ordinance staff to get things done.
right, and I think whatever date or time frame we put in there, council's gonna have the opportunity during their readings to adjust or change based upon what their pulse on the village is, based upon the electorate that have elected them. And so I think it's on us to study out what makes sense, and why we pick certain timeframes if we choose to do different timeframes. Because I know from communication that I've had with villagers, I'll get a text message, initially I'll get a text message multiple times in a week about a specific issue. I'll talk to the clerk about it. Code enforcement officer will go out, but I have but the feedback loop, I tell them to go and talk to the village office to close the loop on that. But then in a month later, I'll get a same text from that same person about the similar problem, and I don't know the status of it because I haven't followed up with them, because I told them to work with the village office on it.
And they should.
And they should. But then from my standpoint, it would be nice to be able to say, within X number of days, the village is either gonna enforce or choose to enforce or not enforce. And if you're texting me 30 days later and it's still an issue, ideally the village has made a determination whether or not they're going to enforce or not enforce, and that person has been notified already to the enforcement. So from and that's more of an administrative requirement where I say, if someone texts me and I say, well, I'll forward it, I'll talk to the village about it, but also expect you to talk to the village office about it, I'll at least know, I can put a timer on myself and say, if they come back to me in 30 days and they have the same question they did 30 days ago, either the office hasn't done anything, or they're not satisfied with the response that the office provided, or something. So I'll at least know that yes, they've been notified. The village is not going to act upon it if if you're still having this problem, and talk to them to make sure it's been taken care of. But several of these problems last 6 months to 8 months, then I get text messages.
18 months.
18 months, yeah.
And it's been a verified complaint.
Yes.
What you're saying.
Yes.
Then that should go to the attention of either the village administrator
Well-
or the ordinance officer there. He is the one that's actually processing that.
And I talked to them, and they have talked about it, and they have worked it through, but there's no resolution, right? Like, there's no final conclusion on whether or not the light has been changed or,
Lighting, there's one in particular I know.
yeah.
And it was determined by not only the ordinance officer, but we've had policemen out there at night to verify this. We've had numerous people. I've been by it myself to see if it's really an issue. And I believe that eventually that person was told it's not something that we can address. It's not.
Right. No, and that's,
So,
but
the
it
guy
took,
just doesn't let it go. He continues to head down the road.
but, okay, sorry, I think I'm using a specific, but we need to talk more general. I think that the point is that it would be nice, not necessarily in the ordinance, but to have an administrative understanding for us to know, what the minimum or maximum time period, which the village is gonna say, we'll either make a determination by this time period from the time of the report, or, you know, you, unfortunately, villager and, neighbor, village can't do anything about it. And it's been 30 days, they've investigated for 30 days, and they can't do anything about it. Like, or they don't see there's no measurable violation, or something along those lines. But I think that it is frustrating for villagers. And it's not that it bothers them in a drive-by, right? Most of the complaints that I get are not from a drive-by, I saw rubbish on the road, this needs to be cleaned up right away. Most of the complaints that I receive, or that other people receive that I've heard of, tend to be where the neighbor is impacted by another neighbor directly. And many times you can just reach out to the neighbor and say, hey, you know, my kitchen window sees your floodlight, and it shines right through my kitchen window every night, and can you change the angle? And I use that example all the time because in that case, I was the go-between, but I didn't need to be, and they changed the direction of their floodlight and solved the problem.
Lighting becomes a really difficult issue for enforcement, and here's part of the reason why. During the summertime, it's light till, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. We don't work those hours. We've actually had the police go out on the midnight shift to verify some of these complaints.
Yeah.
I know Don encourages people all the time to talk to your neighbor.
Yes.
Half the time these things can be resolved between neighbors, but for some reason, life's changed over the course of years, and people probably don't even know who the neighbors are, let alone talk to them.
Well, from a safety standpoint, you should get to know your neighbors regardless.
On my street, I live on a dead-end street, there's 11 of us. We all know each other, we all look out after each other, so on and so forth. Yeah.
I guess I'm confused on like a scalability. So I look at it like there's a problem such as changing a light maybe to maybe something, like much larger, right? How do we put that sort of like, have that frame and lens when we're trying to give a time frame of like the idea of like, hey, someone could actively do this within a day versus, no, the hoarder's house you can't clear up, you know, like within that time frame. I know like we had a neighbor who inherited a house that, you know, kind of was that situation. We wouldn't have called on them, but like it could have clearly gone on for a very long time. So like it's hard for me to like look at it in a lens of like scalability of like I can give you 5 to 10 days when it could be a problem that could take much longer than that. And I wonder, to Stuart's point, if it's maybe just like a matter of, hey, we are addressing it, looking at it this day, documenting it. We are determining or giving them sort of flexibility of like what sort of range is appropriate in that way. And also, yes, it is great to talk to your neighbors, but like plenty of my neighbors are snowbirds and that, you know, like they're out of town for 6 months out of the year that I couldn't get a hold of them if I wanted to in Charleston for 6 months. So then it's like, okay, what do you do then, right? So I think that there needs to be some teeth in it. And I think part of what it's coming from council is like there needs to be more like enforcement ability on it in a couple of those places. So I do think that there needs to be something in it and we need to give some time frames, but also recognize that like it's not a one size fits all
No.
sort of scenario. And I think that's where we're going to really have to dig into the nuance of it, of just like, how do we figure out what that flexibility can be and to who?
Yeah. I think what would help a lot of our villagers is if they knew the process of code enforcement. What is the flow chart that Don or someone goes through, depending on time of day, depending on the type of ordinance? What does that flow chart look like with regards to enforcement of an ordinance, especially an ordinance like the ones we're discussing tonight, so that they can at least see we are here in the process of code enforcement from the time it was reported to whether there's a loop back mechanism in the flow chart, but understanding that process and making it clear for the villagers to understand both the reportee and the person reporting and the person being reported on, so they know kind of how the process goes. And that's not an ordinance. That's a government process document, right?
Administrative process.
Yes, administrative process.
I mean,
That's why I was going to suggest, I have worked in numerous communities over the years, and very few ordinances I've worked with in the past have time frames of when things have to be done. Because, like you were just saying, correct, every situation is just different. They're not cookie cutter.
Maybe the ordinance needs to say, instead of specifying 2 to 10 days or something like that, it needs to say, give the ordinance enforcement officer the ability to say, to specify the time that it takes, that the applicant has to remedy the situation.
This is a 30-day project. This is.
Pardon?
This is a 30-day project.
Right.
This is a 14-day project.
Right, so give the
But
enforcement.
it needs a deadline, though it doesn't go out for
Right.
6 months.
Right,
Yeah.
I think that
Administrative issue.
right.
if it's a matter of health and safety, I think there's gotta be some kind of a priority schedule.
Well,
But
that,
would make more importance on the ordinance officer to do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody's leaving, putting their trash out
So 2 days.
and not putting a cover on it, and there's food in there, and the neighbor is seeing rats, that's an issue. I mean, this is what's happened in Berkeley. Berkeley's had a huge rat problem.
Oh, I understand.
And that, I guess that in my head, I'm thinking old cars that haven't been moved in a while and pestilence. So, you know, I don't know if there's a way of, you know, depending on if it's a matter of health, safety, or aesthetics, you know,
Well, then that,
Not to step on anybody's toes or not to aggravate
Better not, I
anybody,
just had a pet.
but I'm gonna do it anyway. having done ordinance enforcement, again, for 40-some years, not every shoe fits every situation. And to require somebody to do something that doesn't make sense from an enforcement standpoint, I guess what I'm saying is, councils are legislative, planning commissions are recommending bodies, administration is how you process that information. And for that ordinance to dictate how the administration performs its functions is gonna get really tough.
Yep.
It's just, probably isn't what everybody wants to hear, but it's a reality
Fair.
situation.
No, and
Yeah.
we've had administrators that, don't want to enforce anything, and we've had administrators that, have been very lenient in, or not lenient. I've not actually experienced any that have been too,
Oh, I have.
but I've been here long, I've been here for only 9 years, right, in the village, and I'm involved with 4 different, administrators, right? And in some cases, some were, you know, it was not their priority, and enforcing an ordinance is not a priority because it created more paperwork for them, and and council necessarily might not at the time, council might not have been looking at the results from those enforcement activities as seriously as you know they may be looking at it now.
So I would like to make a statement. Bill, do you mind if I just add one thing? So, you know, right now we're in like this litter section, is that correct?
Yeah,
And, you know, we're looking more generally at nuisances, but I think, Linda, you pointed out, like a car is very different from having trash in your yard. So would this enforcement declaration apply to all violations? Cars, trash, anything nuisance related? That seems to be one solution, is that you do have different enforcement declarations, or enforcement policies for different circumstances, you know, and you think of it in terms of scale, which allows some discretion. Yeah, rather than trying to put a number on everything, you know, trash in your yard is 10 days, or, you know, hoarding situations are 10 days, well, it seems like they should be different, right?
right. I
So
think
could
that's where
we-
we're headed.
Yeah, yeah.
David, can I ask you a question? Or, sorry.
I was gonna say, one other thing, you know, to me, the process is very clear. I don't think we need a flow chart. It's pretty much, you know, you get a letter, that says clean up, take care of your thing. And, if that doesn't happen, the police department is going to become involved. And then you're gonna go to court, and a judge is gonna make a decision about what needs to happen, right?
Actually, ordinance enforcement, myself as well as Dan, we have ticket writing abilities.
Mhm.
I've written many.
And I'm sure that, you know, the considerations that, you know, we allow our administrators to make, our staff to make judgment calls. We talked about this earlier, hardship cases, right? No one was interested in people who have hardships, but it's a reality. And we do allow our administrators to make decisions that consider that. But obviously, once you start to litigate, you know, our costs go up quite a bit too. So, but, you know, that is the flow chart,
Right.
yeah. And there's judgment involved in each step, and it is hard to, you know, put super firm constraints on it.
Can I offer just one more quick thing?
Okay. Sure, please.
The people that are complaining about another resident. We try to treat all residents with a certain amount of respectability. So just because somebody's complaining,
Right.
actually complaining about another resident, and from an ordinance enforcement standpoint, I gotta deal with it from both sides.
That's right.
Okay, or Don's gotta deal with it from both sides.
Yep.
So we're not gonna run out there with the ticket book and start flying tickets to everybody just because.
Right.
You know, we're gonna work with both sides to try to get it. Now, I think you're correct in the point that people don't, the general public really doesn't understand the process. And when they don't understand the process, they drive home every day and they see the same thing sitting there every day and it wears on their, it grinds them. The village hasn't done anything, but, okay, I'm gonna get a hold of Stuart, he's a buddy of mine, you know? Okay, I've dealt with it for years that way. We do the best we can to try to resolve all the issues from both sides of the stories.
Correct. I appreciate
But
that.
that's why I'm concerned, that's why the flexibility to me is a must if we're gonna be effective.
All right, Chris, do you mind, moving to, going to the next
I'm
section?
just
Oh,
gonna ask
sorry.
David a question, just from his perspective on council and your legal mind. We're obviously talking about, like, there's administrative, there's planning, there's council, there's all of these people that are coming together to try to sort of figure out all of these different sides of this. Is there, like, I guess your council lens, are you looking at it like, we do want it to be like a more scalable, flexible sort of situation in terms of like how we present it? Or are you wanting us to be more detailed and like finite on things?
So I'll answer it kind of in a multi-tier, just based off the conversation that was happening. So I think to address kind of Peter's concept around how do you go in and like, is a car equivalent to dog poop from that fine standpoint? I think we can handle that from if we have an active schedule already and doing different classes, we could maybe just call out different categories. That would be more of that one-to-one. I think from a responsibilities standpoint, the recommendations, council wants to be informed on the policy that they're making. So for instance, I give high deference to the research that you all do and what's coming to me. From an administrative standpoint, I completely agree that we would want to have some type of enforceability policy, because I think we've always done informal enforcement, which is like, listen to us or else, and then there's never teeth, right? It's a common conversation that we have, and I think the more that we establish a policy on the administrative side, the clearer line of due process we deliver to the person that we're enforcing against, so that if we do actually start to enforce this, which is the intention, that it would be it would be able to survive. It wouldn't just go to a court and it's like, this is all over the place. And then as far as the for lack of a better term, human element of like how we handle things, due process is designed for a process in which you are enforcing, not a process that requires you to always enforce. I think there's, of course, similarly situated people, right? So there's that aspect of it. But I think it still goes down to like a speeding ticket. Officer does not have to give a speeding ticket to every single person that's speeding, right? I think code enforcement is a similar thing where there will be flexibility for consideration of circumstance, but the process is needed on our administrative side to ensure that when we go into the court that things were kind of met through milestones. So I think taking that lens of an approach of you don't have to have that defined administrative side because that is their responsibility, that you deliver over a policy that can fit inside of that framework. And then it would be on us to manage both the expectation of like what are the words that we're approving and then working with the administration to help set up that due process side on that side of the house as well.
Okay, so are there certain things that if it ever did go to civil court on this, that we would have to evidence-wise build into the ordinance so that way, no? Okay, just wanted to check my base on that one.
Yep, no, you're essentially defining thresholds.
Okay,
Yep.
just want to make sure, thank you.
Thresholds that can be evenly administered across the board, not just
Evenly administered and objectively identified.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. I appreciate your perspective on that.
Okay, 648.07, that section just needs to be worded better. And 648.99, I think we've beat that horse pretty badly already. We're going to substitute discussion of municipal civil infractions for that language. And then going on to the next page, This is where we deal with parking and storage of vehicles and equipment in residential areas. This is where we would get into the inoperable vehicles and recreational vehicles. On the first page, the only revision that I initially wanted to point out is in the first paragraph, crossing out the words large or numerous before the term vehicles, because large or numerous that's a term that is open to interpretation. What's large to one person is minuscule to another person, and what's numerous vehicles to one person is not numerous to other people. So I don't think we want those words in the ordinance.
Wouldn't it just be governed by, you can't block the street and it's on your
Yeah.
property? It's, right, that's what I'm saying. So like, if you're blocking the street, then you have numerous vehicles, if you can't keep them on your property or something.
Right, and that would be covered later in the ordinance. On the next page, under owner, this section deals with more than just commercial vehicles, so I think we want to cross out the term commercial. And then under item 6, recreational vehicles, I propose a different definition of recreational vehicles that is much more comprehensive. We'll get to that in a couple of minutes. And then down at the bottom of that page, talks about inoperable or unlicensed private passenger cars or vehicles. My question is, do you want to allow any time to park outside for maintenance purposes? Like 2 or 3 days, 1 or 2 days? Or is that something that you want to just confine inside if they have a inoperable vehicle?
I don't know how rare that is in the village for that one. I understand why it's there. But I also understand that there are some people in the village that have classic cars they collect and like to do maintenance on their own. And sometimes they get halfway through doing the maintenance and realize they have to order a part that is overseas, and it will take 30 days to get here. But they can't put the car back together until that part arrives.
Well,
I haven't, again. I
that's
haven't-
okay if it's inside.
But that's my point. It's, they did it outside because they thought it'd be a day thing, because it was a nice day. And it got stuck now, and it's now covered with a tarp.
Well, that would be
Would that be
inappropriate based on the current language.
correct? But I'm saying, I've seen it once, it was maybe 20 years ago, and it was only 15 days. It was not my car.
The other thing that is gonna be some notable exceptions is there, just in my neighborhood, I can think of 2 homes, one that has a tractor outside, decoratively, another one that has an old manure spreader, out front as a decorative
That's yard art.
item. What's that?
That's yard art.
I mean, that's how it's being, that's how it's being
No,
used.
but that's,
There's other yard art around town that's kind of weird too, but.
well, so, I mean, that's gonna be,
There's alligators too. Yard art.
And
I have a 20-foot sculpture that's in my backyard.
I understand the spirit of the definition being like, okay, nothing blight outside an eyesore and all that, but it's also, again, like, as we've been talking all day, know your neighbors.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, if you want to allow inoperable vehicles to be worked on for a period of time outside, we should put some language in here.
I think that's reasonable.
Does this also, repair and maintenance is on the next page.
Yeah.
But, does this also, cause I live off Telegraph, so regularly cars will break down on Telegraph and then pull onto my street and like leave a note on the windshield of, hey, someone will come back for this. Does this also apply to that? Like, that happens probably
They live-
6-7 times a year.
They live in the village.
That's on the street, it's not in
It's on
the,
the, okay, so that does not,
No.
no? Oh, man. Forgot that one.
Generally, you can call the police and they'll tag it, but after too many days, we'll have the code.
I normally just wait it out, but it happens a lot more than I thought it would.
For number 5 though, on this one, you should tell my neighbors when they have a party and park in my yard.
See, yeah, I don't like number 5 at all.
what?
I mean, yeah, the valets don't care. They just park the cars wherever they can find parking spots, and my yard is one of those.
Oh, so you know, I'm against number 5 for the opposite reason, because for example, in the winter, I live on a hill. In the wintertime, we need to park our car somewhere for it to be plowed. We have a perfect 4-car spot at the bottom of my driveway that we park in so they can plow. So by this definition, we should get fined, but yet.
Is it a yard?
It's my front yard,
Okay.
but that's what I'm saying, is. Again,
Gravel it up.
you wanna, hey, listen, you pay for it, I'm in, I've been barking up that tree for 30 years. My point is though, it's like, no one's complained.
And you're moving it, you're not.
It's
you're
being used every day, it's
parking
not for
it.
storage, but this specifically says for parking vehicles without license, with whether licensed or unlicensed, except for vehicles with current license.
The
but
last
operating conditions.
sentence, not prohibit the temporary parking of vehicles of guests or invitees.
Okay.
Of
that's
the
fair.
property owners or residents, right?
Yeah,
My problem is that they're not my guests.
yeah,
But,
okay. I should have finished reading that, I got angry before I.
well, maybe even just, it says guests
It's a-
or invitees, but maybe include property owners or residents.
Yeah.
They can temporarily park them.
Yeah.
Because technically, you couldn't park your own vehicle there, but someone else could park theirs.
Well,
But there's a right of way as well. I'm
and
just
that's
complaining.
trespassing when somebody,
It's not, it's in
Yeah,
the
you
right of
got-
way.
you gotta
It's not
com-
trespassing, it's in the right of
You got
way.
a complete different issue.
Yeah, no. It's just, I get to patch it later, that's all.
What's the difference between one, you're looking for maintenance purposes,
I
and
guess
4 that there is?
4 does address it,
Okay,
yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I was in
Yeah, on
line.
second reading it
Okay.
does, yeah. So
Okay.
you're allowed to repair for 3 days outside.
Is 3 days long enough? I like a good project.
Yeah.
3 days is not very long for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
just,
Like I said, throw a tarp over it.
there's so,
Just
so few
get-
people
Let's mark it for something to
who
consider.
work on their vehicles, right? It seems pretty rare. It seems like 2% of people work
Again-
on their
again.
vehicles.
I was
It
bringing
is
up,
Michigan.
What's that?
We are in Michigan.
and we do have a lot of people that have enough space in their garage.
I mean, I've
to
been working
do
on
that.
vehicles since I was a young kid, and I still do. But I feel like I'm the only person who ever works on a vehicle. I mean, who else works on a vehicle in their yard? I don't know. All right, good. No, good, because, yeah,
It's a
I
tractor,
would,
but
I
it's not a
do.
car, it's a tractor.
I changed the transmission on a car a little while ago, and, yeah, that was out there in my driveway for a couple days. It can be nice to have a few days to do it,
All right.
Well, this says you have 3 days to change that transmission.
Fair enough, fair enough.
We'll mark it when we go to call out these ordinances specifically for the next month. We can start looking at those times.
Real quick, just based off the conversation, I think one of the considerations that you could do if you run into circumstances like that is to write in the availability of granting a defined but limited exception at the discretion of the administrator, code enforcement or the administrator.
I like it.
Good idea, yeah.
Would that be like a burning permit? You call in and you get
I like
2
it.
weeks of excess.
Good call, David.
Thank you.
Typically, we would want that request in writing, but calling would probably work.
Well, I would just like the random, that's
Yeah,
just an
send us
example.
an email.
Yeah. Hey, waiting on a part, give me 3 more days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. All right, next points. How are we doing on? So I've got 3 pages here and then.
I believe these ones are the
nuisance.
Proposed definitions, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, first one deals with the abandoned motor vehicle. That is out of the Michigan Public Act 300 of 1949. So I think we should probably stick with that in the ordinance.
Well, this is on public property, not private property, I thought was the issue. I mean, if it's a public, if it's a vehicle on your property that's not your vehicle, it takes into that, but like, what about, my neighbor, his car has not moved in the last decade, and a tree fell on it and smashed in the roof? It's been sitting there for a decade.
Well, that's, look
But
under
they-
inoperable vehicle.
Well, I know, but this is not, this is just public.
the property owner
Yeah, I
gives
guess you're
consent.
right.
It's not, you know, it won't cover all of the situations.
Yeah.
I guess the junk or scrap motor vehicles, but,
That's a good point. It should be expanded to include your own car on,
Yep.
okay, I'll make a note of that. I think abate is pretty much self-explanatory. Garbage, we've eliminated the, can't even remember the term protrusible. And use some different language to describe the type of waste that is included in the garbage definition, hazardous waste. We've included a definition of that. Inoperable vehicle, since we're dealing with that subject, I've included a definition of that. Junk or scrap motor vehicle, that also has a definition that's related to the Michigan Motor Vehicle Code. Then we've included a definition of litter, which is garbage, refuse, or rubbish that is strewn or scattered about, which is simplifies the definition. We've included a definition of owner. And then we've simplified the definition of private premises. See what we've got there. It's much more easier to understand. Recreational vehicle, we've included a much more comprehensive definition, which includes all the various types of recreational vehicles that are out there these days. We've included a definition of refuse, residential composting. And then on the next page, rubbish and unlicensed or unregistered vehicle. So, without reading through them, I'll let you go at your convenience to read through those in detail.
Do you want to keep that other word in rubbish, the
I can probably eliminate it by just.
non-biodegradable?
Right.
You don't want it to say unlicensed, unregistered, or inoperable?
No, because it can be operable and still be unlicensed or unregistered.
Okay, but there's nothing, okay, okay.
I guess, yeah, my only thought with all, there's like lots of different, we have inoperable vehicles, abandoned vehicles, junk or scrap vehicles, unlicensed vehicles. Are we creating a lot of headache by having all the different
Well,
categories? Do we, do we want to have one spot to reference definition of vehicles in violation? It includes all of these, instead of
Yeah.
differentiating between.
Yeah,
all of them.
I
condense it,
just
because
included
it's
all the
just-
definitions in one spot here, but yeah, I think,
It's just more, how do they apply? It's like, when does, so this is an operable vehicle in this situation, but it's that, I don't know, it just where it appears in the ordinance, maybe it'll become more.
yeah.
We can do something like nuisance vehicles are defined as abandoned motor vehicles.
It's like yours is inoperable, it's not, but it's
Inoperable.
not unregistered, so then how does that, you know, which ones?
Any of the above.
Yeah.
any.
Right, but that's why I kinda
any
list it all
one
together.
violation, whether it has a plate, or it's not registered, or it's got a
Yeah.
flat tire, or that kind of thing.
Maybe unallowed
Or
vehicles,
no
That's the thing,
tires.
nuisance vehicles.
A through whatever, but.
I've seen a car on the block.
Yeah, so grouping it within the grouping of proposed definitions is what you're
Well, just
recommending?
like put all the vehicle stuff in one spot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, this is
Yeah, I could-
the definitions location where we would keep everything in a unified location for definition of nuisance anyways. Since we're consolidating all nuisance regulations, the definitions will need to be in the same spot, but how we order it to make it more readable or understandable makes sense, right? Keeping,
right.
even though we're, we may not start with abandoned vehicles, we can start with a bait and then have,
Well, I mean, it's alphabetized. that's why
vehicle,
it's there.
yeah.
But it might be,
Right, 100%, no, but like we could have a category
Yeah.
within that.
but it might be junk, scrap, or inoperable.
Yep.
You might be able to throw those together. Abandoned vehicles could probably be separate. And, unregistered vehicles kind of does fall under, junk, scrap, part B.
Oh, see, I was
Any
look-
vehicle that's not registered pursuant to the Michigan code. But then you have just unregistered vehicles as being somewhat different.
See, I was
It
looking,
doesn't mention Michigan code, so just like put those together maybe.
I was looking at it differently. I was saying, we could have like vehicle definitions and then like,
Oh, well, I think you
And
could
then
do
have-
that, but I think you could combine, like,
Oh,
yeah,
you-
or like, but some of them, like junk or scrap, part B, kind of covers already what's unlicensed and unregistered vehicles.
Right.
I guess maybe it doesn't say unlicensed, but like, is a vehicle what would be unlicensed, don't they really mean current, like just a current license plate? So yeah, unlicensed, unregistered, license plate, and,
Why don't we just make a section,
It's not licensed.
are you saying just make a section called definition of vehicles and?
cause it's not a
spell
current
out?
license plate if it
Make
doesn't have
all
current
subsections?
registration.
yes.
So you
Yeah,
don't need a
yeah.
current, so like, maybe that,
Makes the most sense.
I don't know.
Which definition includes yard waste?
Compost?
The
Should
compost.
include
Compost
that.
is different.
Well, that would be in
Wouldn't that
the
be
very
gar-
first one,
Would be vegetable waste, would that be garbage?
Garbage.
see, I think it should be changed to like organic and inorganic, rather than saying where it comes from.
Garbage is garbage.
Well,
But you
yeah,
would put,
but-
but you put your, like, they separate even our garbage out, like your yard waste goes somewhere different than
Well,
your.
it's like decayable,
That would be told.
it's like decayable versus non-decayable, like, we got rid of our, whatever, petrucible, we could just divide it
I
as.
said biodegradable.
Petrucible and non-petrucible. But what, something like that maybe, I don't know.
But if you could
Yeah.
just maybe put where that goes, so that way we, no, in terms of like, what, if we have to put.
Or could we just say including yard waste?
Yeah, just wherever it goes.
Yard, yeah, including organic yard waste or debris. Do,
Okay.
do we care about what the difference between waste and debris is? Do we need to use those terms consistently? Is debris
Inorganic.
the result of demolition and waste is something different? Is that gonna, but anyways, just a thought.
Debris is inorganic, yeah.
I don't think so.
If you have a fallen tree, that's debris.
All right, so Chris, what do you want, in preparation for next month? What is a more meaningful, input that we can provide as a plan commission that would help, move things forward for our
Okay.
discussion in a month?
I think I've gotten quite a bit of feedback this evening, so I think I can provide a first draft for next month on Group 1 and Group 2.
Okay.
And it'll probably take a couple of iterations, but I think I can provide something for you next month.
Okay, and then we can, fine tune it in the next several months as we're, okay,
Right.
that,
My only thought is with item 6, storage of buildings and material. I think this was brought up last time that the state of Michigan highly regulates all of these things if you already have a building permit, so like, if we have a building permit, isn't that kind of governed by the state of Michigan, so Are we just confusing things by adding more on top of something that's already covered by the state of Michigan?
Which one are you talking about?
Number 6. So the storage of building materials, that's kind of beyond the scope of what Franklin can do, as long as there's an active building permit.
An active building permit, you're gonna have building materials on site.
Right, so just limit it to locations without active building permits if we want to talk about it, or we just don't say anything? Or,
No.
it's just
I
'cause
think
building materials are waste.
There are sites around the village that had building materials where there's not active permits.
Right.
Now we're having an enforcement issue.
but is that, would that fall under waste or litter rules,
No,
I
it's not
guess?
waste.
It's not waste, it's not litter. So,
It's brand new materials.
Yeah.
It's just there.
so just identified as being outside of situations covered by active building permits.
I think we're concerned about,
That don't require building permits where you need
Like a
material.
raised flower bed.
we're concerned
Or
about,
radios or, you know, on-ground brick pavers, that kind of stuff.
we're concerned about not just new building materials, but old building materials that people have old projects that they have
At what point
excess
does-
building materials that they never dispose of.
When does it turn to garbage? How long does it sit outside?
30 days.
Yeah, and then it turns into waste.
Well,
So, like-
somebody does their roof and has, you know, 19
Shingles.
extra things of shingles that they
Pile
leave
of bricks.
outside
Yeah.
for the next 15 years.
Please don't do that.
They're useless after that, but whatever.
But it's out there.
But anyways, just the balance between what the state allows versus what we
Right.
want to control versus coming up with a definition when my 2x4 is sat out, how long is it waste versus building
The
material
state
versus,
Building code does not address building materials in way of being put in place. They don't address that. It doesn't address that. However, it only makes common sense that people are building something and they have a permit, they need to store the material someplace to put it together.
See, it
Yeah,
seems-
we're not interested in regulating that.
No.
Well, but
It's the
just-
storage of building materials for indeterminate.
But just like you had mentioned, we had mentioned earlier with regards to, the working on your vehicle in your driveway for 3 days, I think it makes sense that if you're going to have building material that you don't need to pull a permit for, that after a certain period of time, maybe you should tell the village, hey, you know, I'm building a raised bed, I plan on having it done by the spring, in case, I found a great deal on a bunch of lumber, I'm gonna have it in my yard for 2 weeks. And it's not refuse or whatever, but if it's there, I'm building a raised bed and I've been meaning to do it for 10 years, then, you know,
There's an issue at that point.
yeah.
Yeah, so it would make sense to have a separate category that's not covered by state law or building department that says storage of building materials is
Right.
yeah, just the base,
XXX.
yeah.
One thing I didn't see in here is like yard ornaments. You know which house I'm talking about?
There's numerous yard.
Well, yeah, but there is one house that their entire front yard, and probably their backyard, is filled with,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, is that, I know that a neighbor bought a very expensive house and wound up literally planting 1 million arborvitae just so they wouldn't have to look at it. But I mean, is that something that, I mean, wouldn't that be a nuisance? What'd you say?
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I'll wait for you to finish.
Go.
But that's part of what this whole process was intended to do. There are a couple of houses in the village of Franklin that are basically hoarder houses. But where does yard art start and stop? Where does junk start and stop? And I think that's the whole
Yeah.
reason for this whole process was to get cleaner descriptions of what that is, so we know how to address it.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to put something in here that specifically addresses ornamental yard objects, like there should be no more than 10.
That's it.
I know it's the signage ordinance all over it.
Yeah, yeah,
That
that's
can
right.
get into real trouble with,
Well,
some
but
federal regulations also.
Yep. Yeah, honestly, like, that's
it's a real thing.
it is, but, I don't think that we're tackling that necessarily with, cause it is actively being used as art for that home versus being a hoarder situation. Maybe it isn't. I don't know actually the circumstance you're talking about, but anyway, so if you have some proposed ideas or thoughts of how to define it, that will.
Have there been complaints about yard art specifically? Because nowhere in here is yard art mentioned.
No, I've never gotten a complaint on that old carriage at the corner of 13 and Franklin.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
fallen apart.
Yeah.
I've gotten no complaints of the metal structure that's over at Nottingham and Briarcliff.
Uh-huh.
That's been in yard since I started here
Don
23 years
Quixote.
ago.
Yeah.
There's numerous pieces of what I would consider to be yard art that we've got no complaints on. But I did address that wagon a few years ago down at 13 in Franklin.
This is,
And the owner finally did, because I told him I was gonna write him a ticket for junk, because the tires were all falling apart. He finally did do some fix it to it, okay, and brought it back to some semblance of a yard art. That's all discretionary though. It's gonna be very hard to address those from an ordinance standpoint on what it is and what it isn't. One quick example, I don't want to belabor this, but I work at Brandon Township. You might have all seen it in the paper, where neighbors were fighting with each other, so this guy along a private road took 15 toilets and put them on the road and put flowers in every one of the commodes just to pick off the neighbors. I was doing ordinance enforcement up there as well as building cleaning up there. I wrote the guy a ticket, we went down to court. Finally, we got an injunctive order where at least we got a limitation on how many toilets.
So, what is the perfect number of toilets in your yard?
But you gotta be careful when you deal with some of this
Yep.
enforcement stuff,
Yep.
that you're
Yep.
treading on somebody's rights.
Yep.
People can be
Yeah,
petty
it's
too.
difficult, it very is.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Little levity before, as well as, and also, I mean, I'm sure the other person doesn't think it's very funny. And I wouldn't feel this. I probably would be a little perturbed if my neighbor did that in retaliation as well. Yeah, but yeah. Okay, so I think we have enough direction for going towards next month. If you think of something that you would like to point out for Chris, please, reach out to him and CC myself and the village clerk, and then we can I get a motion to meet next month, March 18th at 7 p.m.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then we will adjourn. Oh, I guess it's a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes. Sorry. That was what I was trying to do. Was the adjournment motion.